I used to wear a suit every day. The kind with real cufflinks and a watch that didn't just tell time. It announced that time belonged to me. I was good at what I did. Corporate development for a firm that moved numbers like they were armies, six figures, travel, a corner office with a view of other men trying to climb the same ladder. And for a while, I thought I'd made it. The kind of man other men nod to in elevators, just in case. Then came the layoff. Not the kind with hugs and cake. No, this one was sterile. A market shift, they said, like the economy had tripped and taken my livelihood with it. One meeting. One signed paper. 17 years wiped clean like bad chalk math. That was a year ago. I'm 41 now, and every morning I brew coffee in a machine I used to call hers. It's mine now, like the mortgage and the silence. My name doesn't matter yet. What matters is how it started falling apart. At first, it was little things. The way she stopped saying good morning when she walked into the kitchen. The way her eyes stayed on her phone a little longer than necessary, like whatever was happening on that screen mattered more than the man pouring her coffee. She used to hum while brushing her teeth. Now the bathroom felt like a war room, strategic, cold, efficient. The laughter died first. The intimacy followed. And then came the contempt, quiet and sharp, like a paper cut from someone you trusted. Her name's Rachel. She used to be warm, electric. Now she carries herself like she's auditioning for someone new. I noticed the perfume before the distance. Something citrusy, not what she used to wear. I complimented it once. She didn't even smile. We've got 2 kids. Ava is 5. Thomas just turned 3. They still look at her like she's the moon. And me? I'm just the man who builds forts from couch cushions and burns pancakes every Sunday. I've leaned into the stay-at-home role because someone had to. She says, at least one of us works, like parenting isn't a full-time shift without a clock out. But I don't argue. Not in front of the kids. I cook. I clean. I play dinosaur with Tom until he falls asleep on my chest. I braid Ava's hair even though I'm awful at it. I've become the glue, and glue doesn't complain. It just holds. But then I started noticing things. Not her, yet. My bank account. Ours, technically, though she stopped referring to it that way a while ago. Little transfers. $40 here. $25 there. Always to the same Venmo names I didn't recognize. Notes that didn't make sense. Thanks again, or see you Thursday. I asked once. She said it was nothing, just splitting lunch, or paying for work stuff. I wanted to believe that. God, I really did. But it wasn't just once. It was weekly, then almost daily. And the totals didn't match the lifestyle she pretended to have. I didn't confront her, not directly. Not yet. I told myself there had to be a good explanation. Maybe she was just embarrassed to ask me for help with her expenses. Maybe she was planning something surprising me, even. But that voice in my head, the one that used to steer deals and sniff out BS in boardrooms, it kept whispering. Something's off. I'd lie in bed at night, the kids asleep, her in the other room watching TV with her earbuds in. And I'd stare at the ceiling fan, listening for a sound that might explain the shift. A creak in the floorboards, a click of her phone camera, anything that would make the truth undeniable. But suspicion is a coward. It waits. It doubts itself. It makes excuses. And I was making them by the dozen. It was a Tuesday when I finally asked her. We were standing in the kitchen, me in sweatpants, her in heels, coat already on, purse dangling off one arm like a parachute she couldn't wait to pull. I'd made dinner. Chicken and rice. Nothing fancy, just something warm. The kids were in the living room, Thomas on the floor with crayons, Ava flipping through a picture book. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that pretends to be peace. Hey, I said, keeping my voice even. Can we talk for a sec? About the money stuff. She didn't look up from her phone. What now? These transfers on the bank statement. I saw your name linked to some recurring charges. I just wanted to know what it's for. That's when she smiled. Not the kind that warms a room. The kind you give someone when you've already won and you're just waiting for them to figure it out. Are you serious right now? She asked, slipping her phone into her bag. You're watching my spending? Jesus, that's pathetic. I'm just asking. Oh, you're asking, she said, mocking the word like it was beneath her. You don't earn a dime, and you're checking my account? What are you now, an accountant? A house detective. I stood there, holding a dish towel like it was a shield. I'm just trying to understand. She rolled her eyes, loud enough it felt like a slap. You're a leech, Nate. I go out and work my ass off while you sit here playing babysitter and reheating leftovers. You think this house runs on bedtime stories? She brushed past me then, heels clicking toward the door. Where do you go every night? I asked, softly. She stopped, hand on the doorknob. Didn't turn around. I work, she said. Something you used to understand. And then she was gone. I stood in that kitchen for a long time, the clock ticking behind me like a slow metronome marking every second I stayed in denial. That night, I sat down at my computer. Opened the shared phone account. She hadn't realized it was still linked. Location tracking. She'd turned it off, but I knew a way around that. IT support wasn't my career, but I'd managed enough teams to know where to look when the numbers don't add up. The GPS pinged in a part of town she never mentioned. Industrial blocks, late-night diners, and bars that didn't show up on Yelp. And one name kept popping up on the charges: Velvet Saints. I stared at it, heart racing like I was reading an obituary with my name in it. It didn't make sense. She worked in client management, according to her LinkedIn. Or at least, that's what she told people. There were no LinkedIn endorsements for Velvet Saints. I sat on it for 2 more days. Thought about asking again. Thought about doing nothing. Then a friend of mine, Jared, an old coworker who still owed me a couple favors, called. You didn't hear this from me, he said, but someone I know, they saw Rachel. At a club. She's using another name, a Roxy or something like that. She's not bartending. My throat went dry. Where? He hesitated, then gave me the address. Just don't do anything stupid. So I didn't. I drove out on a Friday night. Parked 3 blocks away and walked. Hoodie up, hat low. Told myself I was imagining things. Told myself she had a twin. Or maybe it was some scam artist who looked like her. I'd believe anything at that point. Anything but the truth. The club was loud even from outside. Neon signs pulsed like a heartbeat in withdrawal. I slipped through the door and kept to the shadows. And there she was. Center stage. Platform heels. Glitter on her shoulders. Hair teased out like she was auditioning for a music video. My wife. The mother of my children. Smiling in ways she hadn't in years. Smiling at strangers. Bending close, whispering things I would never be allowed to hear again. Her name lit up behind her in purple cursive. Roxy. A man handed her a wad of cash, and she laughed, sliding it down her thigh like she'd done it 100 times. I didn't move. I didn't blink. I just watched as the illusion I'd been living in collapsed with the beat of a bad remix echoing off black velvet walls. And then I turned around. Didn't say a word. Didn't make a scene. Just walked out, into the cold, into the night, into whatever came next. Because sometimes the biggest scream a man can make is silence. There's a moment when your heart breaks that nobody ever talks about. It's not loud. There's no crashing sound, no cinematic slow motion. It's just quiet, so damn quiet that it feels like the world stopped spinning, just long enough for you to hear your own chest hollow out. That night, after leaving the club, I didn't go home right away. I parked in a grocery store lot and stared at the steering wheel until sunrise. The receipts were still in the glove box. Kids' snacks, diapers, gas. I looked at each one like they belonged to someone else's life. Someone who hadn't just watched the mother of his children dancing for strangers. I don't remember the drive home. I just remember the way Ava ran up to me when I walked through the door. Daddy, you missed pancakes. Her hair was messy. She was wearing mismatched socks and one of my old t-shirts, knotted at the side like she was starting a trend. I dropped to one knee and held her tighter than I meant to. Then Thomas toddled over with a crayon-streaked face and climbed onto my foot like he always did. And in that moment, the storm in my chest went quiet, not gone, just buried deep. For them, they were the only real thing left in my world. My anchors. My reason to keep breathing. Rachel didn't say anything when I came in. Just glanced at me from the hallway mirror as she put on lipstick, like I was the mailman or some distant cousin who had overstayed his welcome. You look like hell, she said, adjusting her hair. Maybe if you got off your ass once in a while, you wouldn't be so miserable. I didn't respond. Didn't give her the satisfaction. Over the next few weeks, her cruelty became casual. Little stabs over breakfast. Guess you're the trophy husband now, huh? Jabs over dinner. Can't wait to tell the girls at work how my man spent the day folding laundry. Such ambition. It was relentless. But the kids never saw me flinch. That became my mission: stoic face, calm voice, bedtime stories with dragons and brave knights. If she wanted me to break, she'd have to wait. And that's when I started planning. First thing I did was dust off my old fireproof safe. Pulled out birth certificates, marriage license, our joint tax returns. I began scanning everything. Bank records, emails, anything with a paper trail. I stored copies on a flash drive I kept hidden in the back of the freezer, behind a bag of frozen peas no one ever touched. I reached out to Eric, an old friend from college who'd gone into family law. You busy? I asked. He could tell from my voice this wasn't about catching up. Tell me everything, he said. So I did. I didn't tell him everything all at once. Not the club, not the poll, not the fake name. Just enough for him to raise an eyebrow and say, Nate, you need to be smart. If you get emotional, she wins. If you stay quiet, you plan, you win. That line stuck. So I played my part. Folded laundry. Packed lunches. Let her believe she still had the upper hand. Let her keep mocking me at dinner parties, throwing her success in my face like I hadn't once paid for every certification on her resume. She didn't know I'd already opened a new checking account in my name only. She didn't notice when I rerouted my unemployment to a card she couldn't trace. She didn't see the bank statements I kept in the kids' toy bin beneath the Legos. She didn't hear the quiet clicks of me recording our conversations when she thought no one was listening. She thought she was winning because I didn't fight back. But I wasn't losing. I was preparing. Because when you've got nothing left to lose, planning is the only way to win. People like to say knowledge is power. In my experience, it's more like ammunition. Power's the explosion. Knowledge is the shell you load when the world thinks you're unarmed. She thought I was some houseplant, wilting in the corner, soaking up whatever daylight was left. But I wasn't dead. I was rooting. Quietly. Deeply. And eventually, I was going to grow thorns. So I started documenting. Every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, I noted the exact time she left the house. What she wore. Who she said she was with. What time she stumbled back in smelling like cheap cologne and wine that cost more than I made in a week. I had a folder in the cloud, titled Weekly Meal Plan, in case she snooped. Inside were spreadsheets labeled chicken recipes and snack ideas. In reality, it was timestamps, GPS pings, screenshots of her Venmo transfers labeled with heart emojis and cocktail glasses. She used a fake name at the club, Roxy, but her deposits were real. Every Monday, she'd stash small cash chunks into her bank. Like breadcrumbs she thought no one would follow. But I was following. Every crumb. Every late deposit slip she left in her jacket. Every half-torn envelope from some guy named Big T, with a thank you scrawled in handwriting that looked like it belonged in a prison letter. At home, things weren't better. She'd come back wired, buzzing with energy that had nothing to do with motherhood. Some nights, she'd kissed the kids too hard. Other nights, she didn't even look at them. Just kicked off her heels, poured herself a glass of whatever was cheapest, and let Peppa Pig babysit while she sat in the dark with her phone and her secrets. So I installed a camera, discreet, tucked behind the bookshelf in the hallway, a backup mic hidden in the smoke detector. One night, she came home slurring, muttering something about missing her real life, and woke up Ava by yelling at the sink for dripping too loud. I clipped the audio, labeled it incident_03_14. Another night, I caught her shouting into her phone, pacing barefoot, ranting that she was sick of being chained to two brats and that I was too soft to even leave. That one, saved it twice, uploaded to two clouds. One labeled grocery receipts. She didn't know I'd frozen the joint credit card. I left just enough in it to keep her from noticing. Meanwhile, I moved my accounts, opened a new checking line in my name only, had the bank statements delivered electronically to a burner email. She still thought I was waiting on my next unemployment check. I logged everything. Date, time, behavior, even what the kids were doing when she lost her temper. Ava had started flinching when her mom raised her voice. Thomas clung to me more than ever, his little arms wrapping around my neck like I was the only thing that made sense anymore. And maybe I was. So I played my role. Calm, steady, present. The dad who never forgot snack time. The man who held bedtime like it was sacred. While she partied, I planned. While she danced, I documented. And every time she called me useless, I smiled and sighed. Because the longer she underestimated me, the better my chances got. One day, she was going to find out just how much pressure I could take before I snapped. With paperwork, not fists. The thing about setting a trap is you don't rush the snap. You wait. Patient, steady, knowing that the person you're trapping thinks they're safe, thinks they're still in control. That's when they lean too far, say too much, and hang themselves with their own words. It was a Tuesday morning when I finally filed. Nothing fancy. No courtroom drama. Just a quiet visit to my lawyer, a stack of evidence, and one signature. I'd built the case slowly, like a bridge. Brick by brick, line by line. And when it was time to walk across it, I didn't hesitate. I came home like it was any other day. She was on the couch, and yesterday's makeup and one of my old sweatshirts she'd claimed years ago. Half a bottle of wine on the table, empty fast food bags on the floor, phone in one hand, hangover in full bloom. "Hey," I said gently. She grunted. Didn't look up. "If you're gonna ask what I did last night, don't. I'm not in the mood." "I'm not," I said. "I just wanted to let you know something." She rolled her eyes without even glancing at me. "I filed for divorce this morning." That got her attention. She sat up slowly, as if the words hadn't registered yet. Then her mouth opened, and for a second I saw a flicker of something shock, maybe, or the realization that she'd underestimated the man she thought she'd already buried. "You what?" "I filed," I repeated calmly. "Everything's been submitted. You'll be served by end of day." She blinked. The wine buzz in her blood started curdling. "Are you kidding me?" "Nope." Her voice went from confusion to fury in one breath. "You're not serious. You don't have money. You don't even have a job." I shrugged. "Doesn't take a six-figure salary to see what's broken." She shot up off the couch, face twisted, voice rising. "Oh, you think you're going to get the kids? You think some judge is going to give custody to a broke babysitter? You're nothing, Nate. I'm going to take everything, everything. You hear me?" I didn't answer. Just stood there, calm as morning fog, watching her unravel. "I'll clean you out," she screamed. "I'll make sure you don't get to see those kids unless I say so. You want war? You've got it." And I smiled. Not wide, not smug, just enough. Because that tantrum, those exact words, they were being recorded. Clear audio. Crystal sharp. Exhibit A. She didn't know the mic in the living room had kicked on the second I said, "divorce." Motion activated. I tested it 3 times the week before with harmless phrases like peanut butter toast and laundry detergent. Worked like a charm. And now I had her, right where I needed her. Threats. Screaming. Emotional instability in front of the children. Thomas had peeked around the corner halfway through her rant, eyes wide, little fingers clutching the wall like he knew Mommy wasn't safe right now. "You're gonna regret this," she hissed, pointing her finger at me like she was casting a curse. "You think you're clever? You think you can blindside me and walk away clean?" "I don't want to walk away clean," I said, still calm. "I just want to walk away with my kids." She laughed. Bitter. Broken. "Keep dreaming." "I already started," I replied. "Weeks ago." And with that, I turned and walked to the kitchen. Put the kettle on. Let her storm upstairs like a hurricane with nowhere to go. She thought she'd caught me by surprise. But I was 5 moves ahead, holding a queen she didn't even know was still on the board. And her meltdown? That was the move I'd been waiting for. They say the truth sets you free. What they forget to mention is how much it costs on the way out. Courtrooms aren't built for justice. They're built for procedure. Polished wood, buzzing fluorescence, a judge who's seen it all and trusts none of it. And 2 people who used to share a bed now seated on opposite sides of the room like strangers fighting over a rental deposit. Except this wasn't about money. This was about everything. I came in prepared. My lawyer, Eric, had the evidence stacked in neat folders, color-coded and time-stamped. Every club shift, every drunken rant, every recorded threat. The mic caught her saying she'd clean me out, and the footage showed her stumbling in past midnight while the kids cried upstairs. On paper, she was fire in a gasoline shed. And I brought the matchbook. When Eric laid it out, he was surgical. Calm. He walked the court through it like an accountant balancing ugly numbers. "Your Honor," he said, "my client is not just a father. He's the only consistent parent these children have had. Ms. Reynolds has hidden her employment, used funds for undisclosed purposes, and has demonstrated volatility in the home." He submitted pay stubs from Velvet Saints, screenshots from her public social profiles, nights out labeled as networking, comments from coworkers about Roxy owning the stage. Her double life wasn't a theory anymore. It was fact. But her team came back hard. They didn't deny the job. They reframed it. Financial independence, they said. She worked to support her family when he couldn't. Then they came for me. "Mr. Reynolds has not been gainfully employed in over a year," her attorney said, pacing like he was auditioning for a legal drama. "He is living off dwindling savings and has displayed signs of emotional instability. This is not a man who should have custody of 2 small children. This is a man seeking control." Control. That word echoed like a bullet ricochet in my ribs. They spun everything. Said the recordings were covert and manipulative. Said I'd weaponized my children's routines to build a case. That I was a stay-at-home dad by circumstance, not choice, and therefore, not fit to raise full-time. I sat there, jaw tight, watching them take my silence and turn it into threat. Every sacrifice I made, twisted. The judge listened, watched, made notes. And when the verdict came, it was like watching someone else's life fall apart. She granted me the house. She granted me the car. She granted me control over all shared assets, citing discrepancies in Rachel's disclosures and financial irresponsibility that couldn't be ignored. But custody? That went to Rachel. Primary custody, with me on weekends and alternate holidays. The judge called it balancing the scales. I called it a knife to the gut. I walked out of that courtroom in a daze, holding a folder full of small victories that meant nothing next to what I just lost. Rachel walked 2 steps behind me, her heels clicking like applause. She brushed past, sunglasses on, smile smug. Like she'd won. Like the house meant nothing. Like the car, the money, the judge's warnings, they were just static behind the real trophy. The kids. I stood on the courthouse steps watching her pose with her attorney like it was some magazine cover. She didn't even glance back. And for the first time in all of this, more than the cheating, the stripping, the venom, I felt real, hollow defeat. Because no matter how much you prepare, no plan survives contact with the system. The thing about losing in court is, it doesn't kill you. It just changes your shape. I came home to an empty house that wasn't a home yet. Just a hollow shelf full of echoes. Toys and bins. A twin bed where Ava used to sleep. A sippy cup still in the dishwasher. Their laughter used to bounce off these walls like sunlight through windows. Now it was just drywall and dust. I didn't cry. That part of me had already burned out. Instead, I got to work. Mornings started early. I took whatever jobs came first, painting garages, patching drywall, fixing busted outlets and rentals for people who called me sir and tipped in leftover pizza. Other days, I pulled freelance gigs, troubleshooting broken networks for local businesses, resetting passwords for people who forgot their entire digital lives. It wasn't glamorous, but it was something. Brick by brick, I rebuilt. Not for revenge. For clarity. I bought a new filing cabinet. Black metal. Locked. Labeled. Inside, I logged everything. Missed pickups. Late arrivals. Texts that said traffic while her Instagram stories showed cocktail glasses and club bathrooms. I didn't reply. Just screenshotted. Saved. Thomas had an ear infection. She didn't notice for 3 days. Sent him to daycare with a fever. I had the pediatrician's report and the bill in a folder marked medical neglect, 11/3. Ava cried during her last drop-off. Said, Mommy's friend yelled at her last night. I didn't press. Just wrote it down. Everything stayed calm on my end. Measured. Stoic. No outbursts. No gloating. Just quiet logging. The kind of silence that makes noise later. Her texts came like a broken faucet, dripping threats, demands, guilt trips. You better not start your little games again. You got the house. What else do you want? If you keep pushing me, you'll never see them again. I never responded with anger. Just saved each one. Labeled by tone, aggressive, drunk, manipulative. She didn't know I had a second case open already. Not with my lawyer. With the system. CPS reports. Guardian ad litem reviews. Official complaints filed when she left Ava at ballet an hour past pickup. The front desk girl gave me a signed statement. She forgot, she said, laughing like that excused it. I didn't laugh. I just nodded and took the paper. Because now it wasn't about who had more money or better suits in court. It was about patterns. And hers were starting to bleed through the wallpaper. She still thought I was in the rear view. Some washed-up ex folding socks and living off court scraps. But I wasn't behind her. I was beneath her. Building a foundation she didn't even know she was standing on. This wasn't round 1 anymore. This was the blueprint for round 2. And this time, I wasn't aiming to win property. You can only wear a mask for so long before the sweat starts showing through. Rachel's new boyfriend moved in sometime around spring. Big guy. Tattoos, cheap aftershave, always barefoot like the house was his territory. She called him B, like a nickname softened the fact that he looked like he got kicked out of a biker gang for being too unstable. At first, the kids didn't say much. But then Ava started drawing pictures, stick figures yelling, one with a beer bottle, another with Thomas crying in the corner. I didn't press. Just gently folded each one and slipped it into a new folder marked domestic environment. Then the call started. First it was the school. Hi, Mr. Reynolds. We just wanted to let you know no one picked Ava up today. I left work mid-task, drove 30 minutes like the wheels were on fire, and found her sitting alone in the front office, clutching a juice box and pretending it was no big deal. That was the first time. There were more. Then came the bruises. Nothing major at first. A scrape on Thomas's elbow. A red mark near his jaw. "I fell," he said. Then he said it again the next week. And again. The daycare called once to report he'd shown up in the same shirt 3 days in a row. Smelled like cigarettes and sour milk. Every call, every concern, I logged it. Notebooks, voicemails, photos. I wasn't building a case anymore. I was closing one. My lawyer filed the request, petition for custody review due to neglect and unsafe living conditions. 2 weeks later, the case was reopened. This time, there were home visits. Interviews. Guardians assigned. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just handed over the files, neatly labeled, time-stamped, cross-referenced. Rachel caught wind before the official notice arrived. She showed up unannounced one afternoon, slamming her car door like it owed her money. "You seriously did this?" she snapped, standing on my front porch like she still had a key. "You reported me?" "No," I said. "I protected my kids." "You're so pathetic," she sneered. "You think this is going to get you sympathy? You think the court's just going to hand you 2 kids because I have a boyfriend?" "No," I said. "I think they'll hand them to the parent who shows up." She laughed then, loud, sharp, rehearsed. "You're nothing, Nate. Just a bitter little man playing spy games with his sad little folders. You think your house is gonna win you Father of the Year." I looked at her calmly. Same way you look at someone trying to scream through a locked car window. Then I smiled. Not smug. Not cruel. Just honest. "See you in court." And I shut the door. Behind me, Ava peeked around the hallway corner. I gave her a wink and knelt down beside her. "Want mac and cheese for dinner?" She nodded, wrapped her arms around my neck, and whispered, "Can it be the good kind this time?" "Always," I said. Because no matter how messy the storm outside got, inside these walls, it was calm. And soon, it would be permanent. The second time I walked into that courthouse, I wasn't nervous. I wasn't hopeful, either. I was ready. I didn't wear a tie to impress anyone. I wore one to mark the moment. Dark blue. Same color as Ava's favorite dress. Thomas drew a crayon rocket on the mirror that morning and said, "We're blasting off today." And I guess we were. The courtroom looked the same dull carpet, same tired bailiff, but the air felt different. This time, I wasn't the one on defense. Eric opened with a simple phrase, "Your Honor, we are asking for emergency full custody based on new and verifiable evidence." Then he began to unload. Photographs. Attendance reports from school. Hygiene complaints from teachers. A letter from Thomas's pediatrician. The daycare manager's sworn affidavit. The guardian's home evaluation. Unstable environment. Presence of unvetted male adult. Frequent intoxication reported by neighbors. In the video, one from the baby monitor I'd slipped into Thomas's overnight bag. It showed Rachel, late one night, hair wild, bottle in hand, screaming at Ava for spilling juice. Not yelling. Screaming. The kind that rattles inside your chest and leaves permanent bruises on the soul. Ava just stood there, motionless. Not crying. Not blinking. Just absorbing. The judge watched it in silence. Rachel's attorney fumbled. Tried to pivot, emotional stress, single-parent fatigue, temporary lapse. They painted her as overwhelmed, unsupported. Said I had set her up, manipulated the system. But the judge wasn't buying any of it. When Rachel took the stand, she crumbled fast. Tried to flip the script, called me controlling, obsessive, said I'd turned the kids against her. "I gave up everything for them," she shouted. "He's poisoning them. He's making me look like a monster." The judge calmly tapped her pen against the desk. "Ms. Reynolds, no one made you scream at your daughter on camera." Rachel's face cracked. She slammed her fist on the table and screamed, "This is unfair. He's a coward." The courtroom went still. Not tense. Just still. And that was it. The gavel didn't slam. It clicked. Full physical and legal custody granted to Mr. Reynolds, effective immediately. Ms. Reynolds may request supervised visitation pending behavioral assessment. No fanfare. No applause. Just a sentence that ended a war. I stood up. My legs felt heavy, like they hadn't moved in years. Ava ran to me first, her shoes tapping like hope on tile. Thomas followed, dragging his stuffed tiger by the tail. They grabbed my hands like they'd been waiting their whole lives to be sure I wouldn't let go. We walked out together. Down that hallway. Past the security guards, the waiting room chairs, the water cooler no one ever drank from. As the doors shut behind us, I heard her one last time. Her voice, frantic, broken, shrieking something I couldn't make out. And then the doors closed fully. Her scream cut off mid-word. And just like that, silence. Ava looked up at me and asked, "Are we going home now?" I nodded. "Yeah, baby. We are." Dear viewer, thank you for your invaluable viewing. We will be very grateful for your likes, subscriptions, comments, and sharing our story. See you soon.